What could have been done differently when I was growing up in order to have prevented me from becoming such a violent teenager? Now, I get asked this question a lot, and I never want it to seem like I'm blaming anybody or anything for what I did when I was 16, but there's definitely things I wish I learned more about when I was growing up. I remember learning to identify my emotions at a very young age, but then that was it. We never really spent much time talking about coping mechanisms or communication skills. Even later on when I was a teenager in therapy, I don't remember doing that a whole lot, but definitely not in school. I wish we had done that more so that I could have been with some of my peers and we could have all spent more time not only on coping mechanisms to help those negative emotions so that they wouldn't fester up, but those communication skills and how to receive other people's emotions when they're communicating them to you. Because there were times also when I would lash out and say or do things because I was struggling and I was sometimes in a very disturbed mindset. But my friends, my family, my teachers wouldn't know how to receive those negative emotions. I don't blame them. They were never taught that. I wish more people were taught that. I wish more people were taught some of the things that I learned when I was an adult in prison about the power of forgiveness, the power of gratitude. I wish that I had just learned more about letting go of the anger that we all experience and that it's perfectly natural to be angry sometimes and that we often can deal with other emotions that we might feel that trigger our anger, right? Because sometimes when we're angry, it's because we first feel embarrassed. We feel neglected by other people, or we feel belittled. And then anger kicks in because anger is the emotion that tries to like say, no, I can take control of this situation, even though we really can't. But I wish I had learned more of that stuff growing up. I wish more adults would learn that stuff. I wish all of us would focus more on our emotions and the emotions of others and trying to have a more empathetic mindset because that's how we can prevent so many tragedies, not just the ones that make the news when people lash out and hurt or kill others. We can prevent the tragedies of those who suffer alone in silence at home, those who turn to drugs and alcohol to numb those emotions they don't know how to deal with in any other way. Or we can prevent those who finally decide they can't handle it anymore and they stay at home and they end their own life. I want more people to know that although it's okay to not be okay, there's also a better way to help you through that darkness, through those painful times.